Fractures in the sky. Hong Kong never slept. Neon lights shimmered on rain-soaked streets, 1,000 languages buzzing through the night markets, the city alive with its usual heartbeat. But tonight, something else stirred above its skyline, something no skyscraper or city light could explain. The sky was cracking. At first it looked like lightning trapped behind clouds, jagged veins glowing violet and green. Then, as if reality itself were glass, the heavens split open, spilling fragments of something that did not belong. A floating temple from another world tumbled through a rift and vanished into the bay. An alien moon, fractured and hollow, shimmered faintly before dissolving into mist. On a rooftop overlooking the chaos, Dr. Stephen Strange stood with his cloak of levitation billowing, his hands glowing with golden runes. His eyes narrowed as he studied the sky. "This isn't natural," he murmured. "Not even dimensional bleed should fracture this violently." The eye of Agamotto pulsed faintly against his chest, warning him of the truth he had already begun to suspect. This was no accident. Something, or someone, was feeding on the very seams of reality. Down below, the streets erupted in panic. Cars collided as the asphalt rippled like water. Whole sections of road bent upward, replaced by alien stone. A food vendor screamed as his stall flickered, half turning into a ruin from another world. Civilians scattered as the skyline walked with alien echoes. Strange raised his hands, weaving complex sigils. Golden light formed into a dome, shielding civilians as a collapsing shard of another dimension crashed where they had stood. Sparks of magic and alien fire collided in midair, bursting into a storm of light. "Wong," Strange called through a glowing rune in the air, his voice urgent. "The rifts are accelerating. Send the masters to reinforce the ley lines. I'll hold the breaches here." But before Wong could reply, a deafening crash shook the night. From the heart of the sky's fracture, a massive starship tumbled through, flames trailing across its hull. It was scarred, battered, and smoking. The vessel plummeted downward, crashing into Victoria Harbor with an earth-shaking roar. The water exploded upward in a tidal wave that slammed against the seawalls, drenching the shoreline. As the ships remained sizzled in the bay, the cargo hold burst open, and out tumbled a ragtag crew the city had never seen before. "Everybody out before this thing cooks us alive," a voice shouted. Rocket Raccoon staggered onto the docks, coughing through smoke, his fur singed. Groot followed, shielding him with a branch as fire rained down. Gamora emerged next, dragging Star-Lord, who stumbled out with his helmet flickering. Drax marched out last, casually brushing flames off his arm as if they were no more bothersome than insects. The Guardians of the Galaxy had arrived. Star-Lord ripped off his helmet, coughing hard. "Okay, note to self, never, ever try to chase an interdimensional parasite through a black hole. That's not the best way to land." Rocket snapped back. "I told you the ship couldn't handle the stress." But knew. Star-Lord wanted to cut him off at the rift. "Now look at us, stranded on Earth with a Galaxy Eater on the loose." Strange descended gracefully from the rooftop, his cloak carrying him through the smake. He landed in front of the Guardians, hands still glowing with magic. His expression was as sharp as the night's air. "You brought this thing here," Strange said flatly. "Explain." Gamora stepped forward, her blade at her side. "We didn't bring it here. We chased it. And if you're Earth's sorcerer, you should know what you're dealing with." Strange's gaze hardened. "Then tell me." The water rippled violently as if answering him. A dark shape rose from the depths of the harbor, enormous and shifting. At first, it looked like a storm cloud, but then it solidified, revealing itself as a hulking, Minilim being formed from fragments of collapsing worlds. Its body was stitched together with energy veins glowing green, its eyes like black holes rimmed with fire. Nythor, the Dimension Eater, had come. The creature's voice was not spoken. It was felt, vibrating through every nerve in the city. "This reality is ripe. I will feed." The city lights flickered as whole skyscrapers warped, their steel bending into alien spires. The streets buckled, splitting between Hong Kong and shattered fragments of dead worlds. People screamed as the city itself became a battlefield of realities. Strange hands flared with golden light. "I'll hold him back." Rocket barked, pulling a massive gun from nowhere. "Yeah, good luck with that. We barely slowed him down across 3 galaxies." Star-Lord clapped his mask back on, drawing his blasters. "Guess we're all in this together, Magic Man." Hulk-sized waves splashed against the harbor as Groot grew into a towering form, shielding panicked civilians with his branches. Gamora sprinted forward, blades gleaming. Drax cracked his knuckles, smiling in that unnaving way of his. Strange cloak fluttered as he rose into the sky, runes circling his body. His voice was sharp as steel. If we fail here, Earth becomes Riftworld. Hold the line. The Guardians looked up at the sorcerer, then at each other. Star-Lord sighed under his breath. Why is it always Earth? Above them, Nythor roared, tearing open another rift. From it spilled fragments of alien ruins and screaming echoes of dead worlds. The skyline of Hong Kong shimmered as pieces of other universes bled into the city. The battle for Earth had begun. Clash in the rift. The harbor quaked as Nythor's colossal form rose higher, his limbs twisting like molten steel and broken stone stitched with veins of sickly green energy. The water churned violently around him, waves slamming into the shore as if the ocean itself recoiled from his presence. Doctor Strange floated above the chaos, his cloak of levitation keeping him steady despite the storm. Golden sigils spun around his hands, each rune casting off sparks of power. That thing isn't just feeding on reality, it's tearing it apart, Strange muttered, his voice grim. Below, Star-Lord ducked behind a broken cargo crate as a spray of seawater and fire rained down. His mask flickered online, scanning the alien behemoth. Okay, he said, blasters humming in his hands. That's officially the ugliest thing I've ever seen, and I've partied with Drax. Rocket growled, teeth bared as he swung a plasma cannon into position. You've got no idea. That's Nythor. He chews up dimensions like popcorn. If he gets his claws into Earth's core, this planet's toast. Gamora tightened her grip on her twin blades, eyes sharp and focused. Then we stop him, hey? Drax cracked his knuckles, grinning with unnerving anticipation. At last, a foe worthy of my wrath. Groot loomed behind them, branches thickening as he spread his arms wide to shield fleeing civilians. His deep, rumbling voice carried through the smoke. I am Groot. Rocket nodded without looking back. Yeah, buddy. Time to make mulch out of this freak. Strange lifted his arms, conjuring a shield of radiant energy as Nythor raised one of his jagged limbs. The alien slammed it into the cityscape, shattering a skyscraper in a wave of force. Strange's shield expanded, holding back the raining debris just long enough for the Guardians to scatter. That was one building, Star-Lord muttered as concrete dust settled around him. What happens when he levels the whole city? Strange's voice rang out, commanding and precise. We keep him from feeding. Hold his attention while I bind the rifts. Rocket barked a laugh. Yeah, sure, wizard. We'll just hold the skyscraper-sized death god while you go scribble magic circles in the sky. But even as he said it, Rocket fired, his plasma cannon unleashing a barrage of glowing rounds. Each blast struck Nythor's body, bursts of green sparks scattering across the creature's fractured form. The alien roared, the sound vibrating through glass, bones, and stone alike. Gamora sprinted forward, vaulting off fallen rubble. With a single leap, she was on Nythor's limb, blades flashing. Sparks flew as the strikes carved shallow lines into the alien's armored hide. Nythor barely flinched. With a violent shake, he hurled her back, sending her crashing into a twisted streetlight. Gamora. Star-Lord's voice cracked through his mask, his blasters unloading on the alien's eyes. Drax roared from the ground, leaping with shocking strength. His knives glowed faintly as he drove them into Nythor's leg. The alien screeched, green veins pulsing brighter where the blades sank deep. Pathetic gnats, Nythor's voice thundered, echoing not through ears but minds. You cannot harm one who devours worlds. The ground trembled again. New rifts tore open, violet cracks splitting the night sky. From them fell fragments of alien landscapes, floating ruins, jagged cliffs, even rivers of molten rock that splashed into the streets. The city was no longer Hong Kong. It was becoming Riftworld. Strange spun midi, lifts blazing around him. By the seal of the Vishanti, close. He pushed his palms forward, golden threads of light lashing out, stitching one rift shut. But for every tear he closed, two more ripped open. Rocket cursed as flaming alien debris rained down. We can't outshoot this thing. He's warping the whole damn planet. Star-Lord rolled across the dock, firing to cover Gamora as she climbed back to her feet. Then what do we do? Rocket snarled. teeth bared as he yanked a glowing cylinder from his pack. We buy time. I've got one graviton imploder left. If we can shove it down his throat, maybe we'll stall him long enough for Magic Man to do his thing. Strange voice boomed from above. Stalling him won't be enough. His strength is tied to the rifts. Unless we seal them, he'll keep feeding. Nythor's massive arm swung upward, swatting Strange out of the sky. The sorcerer's shield flared, but the impact sent him crashing into the harbor wall. Water rushed around him as he struggled back to his feet, coughing blood. "You are not enough," Nythor's voice hissed, his eyes like voids. "Your world will be mine." For the first time, Dr. Strange faltered. His hands shook as he forced another sigil into existence. The enemy was stronger than anything he had faced since Dormammu. Star-Lord skidded to a halt beside him, panting. "You're not the only one fighting, Document. We've dealt with Weiss." Strange glanced at him, exhausted but resolute. "Then tell me, how do you fight a god that eats worlds?" Star-Lord smirked behind his mask, raising his blasters. "Easy. You don't let him eat." The Guardians launched themselves back into the fight. Gamora and Drax hacked at Nythor's limbs, distracting him with relentless ferocity. Rocket scrambled onto Groot's shoulder, firing his cannon in rapid bursts as the giant tree swung his arms to knock debris aside. Star-Lord soared upward with his jet boots, raining fire on Nythor's glowing chest. And Strange, bleeding, battered, but unbroken, rose once more into the sky. Golden glyphs expanded in every direction, a blazing net of light cast across the heavens. He roared with effort, holding rifts closed by sheer will. But even then, Nythor's laughter rolled through the fractured sky. "Your resistance is amusing, but futile. Riftworld is inevitable." The monster's chest flared with green fire as he prepared to unleash a pulse of energy that could level half the city. Strange's eyes widened. "Brace yourselves." The night exploded in emerald light. Allies in chaos. The night sky over Hong Kong was no longer the night sky at all. It was a kaleidoscope of broken worlds, alien ruins, shattered moons, molten rivers, bleeding into the city through cracks of violet and green. The skyline flickered like a dying star, half human, half nightmare. And at its center, Nythor loomed. The Dimension Eater's massive body was a grotesque patchwork of alien fragments, stitched with pulsing green veins of cosmic hunger. He raised a clawed arm, preparing to unleash the Emerald Inferno building in his chest. Doctor Strange hovered above the chaos, his hands forming intricate sigils of light. Sweat streamed down his temple. The sheer pressure of holding multiple rifts closed strained his magic to its breaking point. If he releases that pulse, Strange thought grimly, half the city will be gone in an instant. On the ground, the Guardian scrambled through the debris. Rocket barked orders, his fur scorched but his eyes wild with determination. "We can't just keep shooting him. We need a plan. Something big, something insane, something that'll probably kill us all." Drax, blooded but grinning, tightened his grip on his knives. Finally, a proper idea. Gamora spun her blades, eyes locked on the monster, his drawing power from the rifts. "We cut him off. We cut his strength." Star-Lord hovered into view, his jet boots sputtering against the storm winds. "Newsflash, Gamora, the wizard's already trying that, and it's not working." Strange descended, cloak whipping violently in the dimensional winds. His eyes burned with urgency. "I cannot contain the rifts alone. He feeds on every attempt I make to bind them. We need more than magic." Rocket's ears perked. His gaze flicked to the glowing amulet around Strange's neck, the Eye of Agamotto. He grinned like a madman. "That little trinket of yours, it channels magic, right? What if I wired it through some Kree tech? Boost its output, stabilize the frequency." Strange gave him a look that could cut stone. "You want to modify an ancient relic of incalculable power with alien scrap?" Rocket shrugged. "Yay, you got a better idea." For a heartbeat, Strange hesitated. Then, as another rift tore open above them, spilling alien fire across the skyline, he thrust the amulet toward Rocket. "Do it, quickly." Rocket scrambled onto Groot's towering shoulder, pulling wires, circuits, and fragments of his scorched plasma cannon from his pack. Sparks flew as he jammed tech into the amulet, twisting it into a glowing contraption that hummed with unstable power. "Groot, hold it steady." Rocket shouted, "I am Groot, The tree rumbled, his massive branches shielding civilians as the device began to glow brighter. Strange floated beside them, weaving golden spells around Rocket's wake. The sorcerer and the raccoon locked eyes for the first time, not as rivals, but as co-engineers of survival. On 3, Strange said. Rocket smiked. On 1. The device unleashed a beam of fused magic and technology into the sky. It split into hundreds of radiant threads, weaving themselves across the rifts like glowing roots. The violet fractures shuddered, flickering violently as they struggled against the combined assault. Nythor roared, his voice shaking the air. You dare bind me with your toys and tricks? He lashed out, a limb the size of a skyscraper smashing toward Groot. The impact shook the earth, branches splintering, but Groot stood firm. I am Groot, he bellowed, his vines glowing as they channeled the energy back into the rift-sealing web. Gamora and Drax seized the opening. Together, they leapt onto Nythor's leg, blades flashing. Sparks and green energy exploded as they carved deep into the alien's veins, slowing his movements. Above, Star-Lord soared close to Strange, blasters glowing brighter as strange glyphs reflected their energy. Fire now, Strange commanded. Star-Lord squeezed the triggers, twin blasts of plasma shooting directly into Strange's spell cycle. The magic bent the bolts into a beam of amplified light that struck Nythor square in the chest. The monster shrieked, staggering backward as the glow in his chest flickered. For the first time, he looked unstable, but instability was dangerous. Nythor roared, his fractured body absorbing fragments of entire rifts at once. Alien spires, molten rivers, and broken temples fused into his form, turning him into a nightmarish titan, half creature, half collapsing dimension. His body burned with emerald fire, unstable yet more powerful than before. This world is mine. Nythor bellowed. Strange faltered, his shield cracking under the strain. Rocket's device sparked violently, the eye of Agamotto flickering. Doc! Rocket screamed. We're losing juice. Strange gritted his teeth, pouring every ounce of will into the spell. Not yet. Hold it together. The Guardians rallied. Gamora drove both blades deep into Nythor's side. Drax clung to the alien's back, stabbing furiously with primal rage. Groot spread his massive arms, channeling energy into the sealing web. Star-Lord soared in a spiral, blasting through rift-spawn debris. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't graceful. But for the first time, it was united. Strange voice rang out over the chaos. Together, all of you, focus on the core. Rocket snarled, cranking his device past safe limits. The beam flared, arcs of lightning dancing across the skyline. Strange chanted in unison, golden glyphs burning brighter. The Guardians poured everything into the fight, blades, blasters, fury, and fire. And together, they struck at the heart of the Dimension Eater. Nythor staggered, howling as green fire erupted from the fissures in his chest. The city shook as the unstable Titan faltered, his form flickering. The tide had shifted. For the first time, the Dimension Eater bled. But even as Nythor reeled, his hollow voice carried across the fractured sky. You think unity will save you? This is only the beginning. The Kryne are many. His words chilled even Strange's heart. But for now, the Guardians and Earth's Sorcerer Supreme stood as one. And that made Nythor afraid. Riftworld War. The city was shaking itself apart. Hong Kong had become a nightmare landscape. Half skyscrapers, half alien ruins, stitched together by rifts that screamed in violet and green. Whole streets floated upward like shattered puzzle pieces, while the harbor boiled with dimensional energy. At the center of it all, Nythor staggered, his hulking body flickering as though reality itself couldn't hold him anymore. Emerald fire bled from his chest, spilling across the water in burning rivers. His roar rolled through the city like a collapsing star. You cannot stop me, the Dimension Eater thundered, his voice shattering windows and rattling bones. This world will be Riftworld. Your resistance is nothing. Doctor Strange hovered above the chaos, his cloak of levitation torn, his hands glowing with shaking golden sigils. Every muscle in his body ached from holding the rifts at bay, but he refused to let go. Not while I breathe, he spat, pushing his magic harder. On the ground, Rocket scrambled over Groot's shoulder, sparks flying from the hybrid device he'd built. The eye of Agamotto glowed at its core, fused with Kree tech, spinning faster than seemed possible. We're running on fumes, wizard. Rocket shouted. If this thing doesn't overload, it's gonna blow us all sky high. Star-Lord saw it in low, dodging a wave of debris as Nythor swung a jagged limb through a skyscraper. His helmet's comms crackled. Rocket, please tell me you've got a plan that doesn't end in us vaporized. Rocket's grin was manic. Nope, but I've got one that ends in him vaporized. Gamora vaulted over a collapsing bridge, blades glowing as she slashed deep into Nythor's limb. The alien shrieked, stumbling back a step. Drax clung to the creature's side, stabbing furiously into its glowing veins. At last, he roared, a foe worthy of dying by my hand. Nythor swung wildly, shaking Drax loose, but Groot's branches lashed out, catching him before he hit the ground. I am Groot. Strange descended lower, sweat dripping from his brow. His voice boomed with urgency. All of you, focus everything you have on the core. His unstable. We strike now, or Earth falls. Rocket flipped switches, the device shrieking with power. Golden magic surged through its circuits, blending with neon blue plasma. Everyone hit the core when this thing fires, Rocket barked. One shot. Make it count. Star-Lord adjusted his blasters, hovering into position. Gamora tightened her grip on her swords. Drax raised his knives, eyes blazing with determination. Groot's branches glowed as he channeled energy through the sealing web in the sky. Strange drew massive golden glyphs, the air vibrating with raw sorcery. Together, they aimed at the emerald fissure burning in Nythor's chest. Nythor laughed, his voice echoing across worlds. You think unity can save you? The Kryne are eternal. I am but one. Then, with a deafening roar, the Dimension Eater charged. His massive body thundered across the harbor, shaking the city. Each step warped the air, pulling fragments of other realities into his wake. Fire! Strange shouted. Rocket slammed the trigger. The device screamed, unleashing a torrent of fused energy. Golden magic braided with blue plasma, threads of light weaving like a storm. Star-Lord's blasters fed into it, the blasts amplified through strange roads. Gamora's blades caught the light, channeling it like conduits as she slashed. Groot poured his very life force into the beam, his glowing branches stretching into the sky. The combined strike slammed into Nythor's chest. The Dimension Eater roared in agony, emerald fire erupting from his fissures. His body convulsed, fractures splitting wider as green light burst from within. The rifts above flickered violently, shrinking and spasming under his soul. Strange forced his hands together, chanting words of power older than the earth itself. The glyphs flared, grinding the strike into a focused spear of light that pierced Nythor's core. The harbor exploded with blinding green fire. A shockwave ripped through the city, flattening buildings, shattering glass for miles. The rifts in the sky convulsed and began to collapse, shrinking into pinpoints of light before winking out. The skyline trembled, alien ruins dissolved, streets knitting back into Earth's fall. When the light cleared, Nythor was on his knees in the crater of the harbor. His body flickered, broken, his form unraveling into smoke, but his voice still carried, hollow and defiant. You cannot win. The Kryne, no. His eyes burned one last time before his entire form imploded, collapsing into a storm of green embers that scattered into the wind. The Dimension Eater was gone. Silence fell over the city. Smoke drifted lazily over the ruins. Civilians peeked from their shelters, wide-eyed but alive. The rifts were closed. Earth was safe, at least for now. The Guardians regrouped on broken docks, their bodies battered but standing. Rocket fell back onto Groot's shoulder, exhausted but ready, told why he had worked. Gamora wiped her blades clean. Her eyes stayed fixed on the sky. He wasn't bluffing. If there are more like him. Drax crossed his arms, nodding sullenly. Then let them come. I will bathe in their blood as well. Star-Lord shook his head, moving his mask, his face serious for once. No, if there's an army of them, we'll stand a chance of it. Doctor Strange landed among them, cloak torn, his face pale from exertion, but his eyes were steady. He's right, Strange said. Nythor was only a scout. The Kryne Legion will come, and when they do, Earth will need every hero it has, and more. He looked at the Guardians, then at the still-recovering city. This was just the first battle. The war beyond the stars has already begun. Above them, the night sky cleared, the stars twinkling faintly. But for a moment, just a moment, the Guardians and Strange thought they saw movement among them. A shadow, vast and unyielding, watching. The Kryne were waiting,